Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. It's that time of the week again, Thursday tutorial time. It's lovely to have you all join. If you could please let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, my microphone, I should have checked before, but I just remembered another place I hadn't checked. It always catches me out. Hello Trisha, hello Gemma, Linda, hello Carol, hello Sue. All good, fantastic. So tonight we're getting a little bit back to basics, which if you're a jewellery maker that's just on the start of your journey, even if you're not a beginner, this is a nice little refresher, and it might give you a couple of design ideas as well if this is something that's second nature to you. But we have a lot of beginners starting in the group, and I don't have many beginners tutorials on YouTube or in the Facebook group that people can refer to. So I thought, you know what, I think it'd be a good idea to do some back to basics. Hello Jay, lovely to have you join. I think I've said hello to Sue as well, but hello Sue, just in case I haven't. So let's go on the overhead and let's have a look at what we're going to be doing tonight. You don't want to be looking at my lap, do you? Right, so I might need to zone out a little bit more so that I can get everything in the pictures. So we're going to actually look at how we can use tigertail. Now it's referred to normally as wire, but it's a different kind of wire to the wire we use in wire work. It's a flexible and strong wire, and it's lovely for stringing on most beads. Sometimes you might have beads that are a little bit too small, in which case you go down a size. Now these come in different thicknesses. The one that I normally use is between 0.35 and 0.48 for the tigertail, and we use crimp beads to secure the ends, lobster clasps as well. So I've got a few little bits and pieces to show you along the way, but if you've got any questions, or if you've got any top tips that you've picked up along the way as well, please do share them. That would be wonderful. Hello Kim, hello Jackie, hello Carol. So the other thing we're going to do as well is just look at stretch bracelets. So that's using a clear or coloured elastic, and we'll also look at how to add a charm in as well. Now the gemstones that I'm using and all of the little charms are actually from the gemstone bead box. Now I think I've got 3 or 4 of them left. I will bump that up to the top of the thread after this, but this, I got all of these out of that box, which is quite amazing. There's a few little additions. For example, the seed beads. Czechoslovakian size 10 seed beads, 6s or 8s, a really lovely little addition to sort of spaces. But all of these, the little pendants, they're out of that kit as well. So, oh, I've got another one as well in hematite. So we're going to look at also a bead board. What does it do? Can you work without it? And there's a different type of bead board that I've got to show you as well. Oh, I think I might have smashed something along the way there. That wasn't intentional. Right, I might have to, right, I might have to just bring back, there we go, let's just bring back the camera a bit. Let's just push my laptop back a little bit. Right, so here's one I've prepared earlier. Now the beads on this are actually in the thread. Right, I don't want to push my laptop off the end, that would not be good. So first of all, what we're going to do is a full view of the bead board. Now if you've never come across a bead board before, I'm just going to talk you through what it is. Now these little wells are literally for your beads, okay? You've got, these are in inches, the outside measurement is the true measurement, and by that what I mean is if you're going to do a 3-tier necklace, for example, that's why you've got the number of grooves, so you could do a 2 or a 3 strand. So, but bearing in mind that obviously as you get further in, that won't be a true measurement, but it's there so that you can visually see how they slot into each other when you're wearing them. So you've got about 1.5 centimetre distance, if that makes sense. So when you're planning on the bead board, always make sure that if for a single strand that you place your beads on the outside. Otherwise you will get a necklace that's 3, so will it be 1.5 centimetres shorter than you thought it would be, or roundabouts. Hello Betsy, hello Jane. Okay, so I think what we'll do over the next couple of weeks is we'll look at some other types of necklaces as well, where we can use the board for 2 strand as well, maybe 3 strand. So we're just going to do a bracelet because I don't think you're really going to want to be watching me string beads. But the idea of the bead board is that it's also a visual tool. And the great thing is that providing chips, gemstone chips are a bit difficult because unless they're laid out in the way that they'd go on your necklace, it doesn't always give you a true measurement, but you can still get an idea of design. So what I like to do is lay out the design on my bead board, make a few changes that you might want to do, and then string your necklace or bracelet. Because I've got a focal center for my bracelet, right, let's just see, I go back a little bit, I don't want my laptop to disappear. So this is a 0, so my middle bead is on the 0, and for a bracelet the average bracelet size is about 7 to 8 inches, so I suppose between 6.5 to 8 inches. So I have gone 3.5 either side because obviously you're going to be adding your lobster clasp. I like to add an extender, which you can just cut down a little bit of chain, or you can have a ring, and you can measure it that way. So 3.5 either side will be 6 plus the extender, so that's going to give me up to about 7.5 inches. Now if you haven't got a focal point to have in the middle, I've just messed up my design, that wasn't a good idea. You can actually start at the 0 and work your way round that way for the measurement. Okay, it's just a few more things before we get going. Now you might wonder why on earth these are at the top here. You can also use these for bracelet measurements as well. So you've got 0 being the middle, obviously 2 inches either side is 4, so you get the idea. But also if you've got a super long necklace, you can go all the way up, which goes to 13 either side, so that'd be 26 inches, and then you can count these in as well, so that'd be 26, 28, 30, 32. So it will go up to 33 inches. Do let me know if that sounds okay. On the inside, these are centimetre measurements. So if you're doing a bracelet in centimetres, you could then use the inner circumference. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a quick overview. Now you are going to need some chain nose pliers and preferably some side cutters. If you haven't got side cutters, then some scissors, but don't use your best scissors because it blunts them. Failing that, if you haven't got a bead board, okay, a tea towel if you don't have a bead mat. Bead mats are so cheap and they're wonderful, and a tape measure or a ruler, and just lay it out that way. Right, so with regards to the tiger tail, now I know we like to be quite sparing to save on things, but do give yourself lots of extra to work with. Now sometimes, can you see where that has actually been round a reel? It's actually gone a bit of a funny shape. Personally, I would cut that off, because if you haven't got heavy beads, heavy-ish beads, you'll see that kink actually in your design. So we're going for a 7-inch bracelet, but I'm going to cut 9.5 inches of tiger tail thread just to give me more to work with. Now I think what we'll do is we'll just zoom in a little bit more so that I can show you a few more bits. Should we turn that on its side so that you can see it, so I can get it into frame? What I want to show you is crimp beads. Okay, these are 2mm crimp beads. These are the round ones. I prefer the round ones. These are the tubular ones. Now personally, I'm not so keen on the tubular ones because I find that they go so flat that sometimes you have a bit of a rough edge jutting out. So let's just show you. I didn't really need to get all of those out, but let's just have a little, that scrap bit that I've got. Let me just show you what the difference is in how they look. So with crimp beads, you'd fold them over and squeeze, but I just want to give you an idea of how they look alongside each other. Obviously, if you're working with a thick cord or something like that, you can actually get bigger crimp beads. Right, let's see if you can. So the top one is the round one, the round crimp beads, and the bottom one is the tubular ones. It's a matter of personal preference, really. So let's grab a clasp, let's grab a crimp bead. We'll pop a crimp bead on, shimmy that down a few inches down the thread, pop it through the end of your clasp. There's lots of different types of clasps that you can buy. I'm just working on the lobster one for now. And you just pop your wire stroke thread back through the crimp bead. So that is just hanging in there. And then I'm going to push it up. Make sure you've got plenty of movement there. And then when you're comfortable that that's okay, is with your chain nose pliers, is give that a squeeze and just make sure that that stays in place. Okay, so I'm going to start stringing my beads from one end to the other. Now these are white howlite, and I thought these are really nice unisex bracelets and unisex beads. You know, you may want to make some men's jewellery. I just think they're lovely, and we've got a few other gems which I'll talk you through as we get there. So this is a lava bead, 6mm in size. Lava beads, you can place some essential oils on there, but I would dilute it first, so just to make sure you don't get a reaction with your skin. This is a nice little wooden bead. We've got some hematite. These strands are already made up for you as well if anybody wants to make some like this. That is a jasper focal bead. Now, in terms of design, I have to say there's no written rules. I'd say just make what makes your heart sing. You know, just make what you feel looks nice, that you're happy with. But design and lay it out first, because quite often I'll do something I think, that's not singing to me, so we'll start again. So Trisha has made a really good point, and that she always checks the lobster clasps works. It's really annoying after making something to find out you have a dodgy clasp. Absolutely. Right, so we've got to the other side. Now you could just have a ring. Now a jump ring looks like this, and you could have whatever size you think is comfortable. I'm keeping that for the next project, but what we're going to do is add on, oh that's a bit small, add on a crimp bead and these extenders. I must get some more of these in stock. I get through so many, I never seem to get the chance to actually put them online. So we're going back down the crimp bead, and I like to go through another bead or two. And the best way to make sure you've got no unsightly gaps is to actually lift up those beads, let them drop, let the weight drop, and take your time. If you've got sort of struggling to get a grip on them, then use your chain nose pliers. But this part is really important that you take your time, because I just think there's nothing more. I don't like the look where you've got, you know, a big gap in between beads, because it can look handmade, and we don't want that. We want a nice professional finish. And the other thing you want to make sure is that you've got some give. You know, if it's sort of squeaking and not bending freely, you've not given it enough room to breathe. So we're going to squeeze that, and then with your cutters, you've got a flat edge and you've got an edge, you've got a bit that dips in. The flat edge goes against where you're going to cut, and that enables you to get in closer. Just make sure you don't cut the other side. And there you have your little bracelet. But the lovely thing with this is as well that if you've got any broken pieces of jewellery, you can take them apart, you can restring them. The other thing to bear in mind as well is if you've got larger than 8mm beads at the end, you might want to think about reducing the size as you get to the clasp, because if you've got bulky beads, it makes it really difficult to maneuver your clasp. So those are a couple of things to think about with your designs. This, as you can see, I've actually popped little seed beads in between, which I think just add a nice detail. And if you've run out of beads, say you haven't quite got enough beads for filling the whole necklace, then a little bit of a cheat is to actually put seed beads towards the back, because you're not going to see the back of your neck. Right, so Emma says that that's the bit she struggles with, the tension with the tigertail, the pulling at the end. I never know where to pull it to get the tension. So what I would say, Emma, is take your time bouncing between pulling the tigertail, pushing your crimp bead down, and just just take your time with it, just to make sure, you know, there's no rush. So has anybody got any little ways or other things that they like to do? You can also use this bullion wire, which is called French wire as well, if you want that for the ends, but I quite like it as it is. And oh, the other thing I could show you as well, bear with, is some crimp covers. Let me see if I can find them. Hello Dot, lovely to see you. Right, have a chat amongst yourselves. Let me know if anybody has used crimp covers. Right, I found my crimp covers. For those of you that haven't heard of crimp covers before, if you don't like the look of a crimp, you can cover them and they end up looking like a bead. And again, they come in different colours. Now they are a bit fiddly, I'm not gonna lie. Right, let's hold it up a bit closer. That's what they look like. So the idea is that you cup, the crimp cover cups around the crimp bead, so the crimp bead slots inside it, and then you squeeze it. You squeeze the crimp cover and it ends up looking like a bead. So Sue's got some, never used them. Betsy, you've got them. Have you ever tried using them? Then they're nice on floating necklaces as well. So these floating necklaces, for those of you that haven't come across it before, are just where you suspend your beads in mid-air. Ooh! You suspend your beads in mid-air using a crimp. These are sort of decorative starburst ones. Jay says they're pesky critters, make a professional finish, and she uses them. So yeah, they do, don't they? They're little tinkers to. So that's a slightly bigger one which fits the tubular one nicely. I know you can get special pliers for these, but I don't like the special pliers. I prefer using my chain nose. Larger works better. Yeah, you're right, Betsy, absolutely. Let's just see if I can show you the little starburst one. So there you go. So Carol did some courses with me years ago, wasn't it, Carol, when I taught at Swindon New College, and apparently we used crimp covers then. So but it's always nice to know, so that you've got the option, and then if you find that you've got these things in your stash, you can use them. So I would love to know as well, how many of you use the tubular crimp beads? How many of you use the circular ones? How many of you are actually not quite sure what you've got? You're going to have to go and have a look in your stash. I'm just popping these away, and then we're going to go and have a little look at something else. That is a great tip. Jack is saying that whilst crimp covers are fiddly, they're good for filling gaps in your tiger tail. Now, that would be good, wouldn't it? So if you've perhaps got a little bit too much of a gap, you can use those to fill in. Okay, so that is stringing. Same technique, whether it's a necklace or a bracelet. I like the little extender chain, but again, you don't have to have that. If you've heard of soldered rings, that's where it comes in quite handy, because you can actually attach the end to a soldered ring, which means it doesn't have a slit in it at all. So Sue uses round, Nikki's got both, Trisha's got circular ones, Jay uses round, and Jackie uses crimp beads, doesn't like the tubes. Now, so we all have our preferences, don't we? So that's your stringing. So what we're going to look at now is something that, again, you may have come across, another type of measuring board. So let's just go up a little bit. Sorry to and fro with the old zooming in, but I want you to be able to see. So how many of you have come across this little tool and have actually used it? So this is actually another type of measuring board. So you've got inches here, centimeters here. You could just lay your beads across this part like so, and you have got circles that show that you lay your beads around for a 6-inch bracelet, 6.5, 7 and 7 3/4. So the idea is that you lay your beads around here. So let's just, and it's also a good way of actually measuring. So on this one that we've just made, you can see with the extender that would fit someone with a 7 3/4 inch, and at its smallest it would be 6-inch. Now so that's what this one is for. It's quite handy. It can be a little bit fiddly because, bearing in mind, obviously when you've got thicker beads, does it work quite as well? I haven't tried it that often, so I'd love to know if anybody else uses these. Jay uses them. Excellent. Quite a few of you haven't seen it before. So what I've done, we're going to use stretch bracelet. We're going to make a stretch bracelet this time, and that is a little bit smaller than 7-inch. I'd say that's probably more of a 6.5 inches there. I've already strung it because I didn't really think you'd want to sit and see me stringing a bracelet. So let's talk about elastic. Now with elastic, you've got your branded elastic, which is, for example, let's just zoom in, like bead-along. So if I'm restringing bracelets, I tend to use bead-along. However, the Chinese clear elastic, which I've put on my website today, is equally as good. Either way, you're going to find with any of your elastic that they all have a limited lifespan. Okay, they are going to need redoing after a couple of years. It's always a good idea before you actually string your beads that you actually give it a quick stretch as well. And there's different thicknesses. So if I'm restringing something with really mega tiny seed beads, if I'm stringing it with little seed pearls or pearls with small holes, I'd use 0.5mm elastic. If I've got standard size holes, I like to use 0.8 or 0.7 if it doesn't quite fit, because it makes it nice and sturdy. Also, a top tip is, if you don't like the thought of seeing the knot, have yourself a slightly bigger bead with a bigger hole that you can actually ease it into at the end. Okay, so I thought we'd actually pop one of these little tree of life in there. I've got a bigger jump ring because, bearing in mind, okay, you put a smaller jump ring on there and it's not really gonna drop so nicely. So that's another thing to think about, is your jump ring big enough for the actual pendant or charm that you're adding to drop? So this has got a slit in the middle. Hold the slit at 12 o'clock. Have 2 sets of pliers, one either side. I've got 2 chain nose here. I wouldn't suggest using round nose because it marks it. And then bring it back, and I like to squeeze over that join. So I've threaded on these beads. I've got a mixture which again has come out of one of my gemstone chip bead boxes. I've got peach rondelles, garnet, moss agate, cherry quartz, moonstone, what else have I got? Goldstone. So I've got a nice little mix in there. So let's pop the charm through there as well. Now the key ingredient is clear nail varnish. Now you used to be able to get for like £1 from Superdrug, their own brand, but they've stopped doing that now. So unfortunately there's not really a great cheap way around it. You do have to buy a clear nail varnish, and most of them, they're still only about £4. I'd rather use that rather than glue, because if you glue, you're going to glue up one of the holes of the beads, and when you come to restring, you've lost some of your beads. So we're coming to actually tie the knot. So sounds like we're getting married, doesn't it? So we're just going to do a simple overhand knot and then wrap it around my finger and actually just do another overhand knot again and pull. Okay, while you've got that tension on the go, you might need a hand from someone else. Get your clear nail varnish. This is where you need a couple of hands. Stretch it out, paint that knot top and bottom. Now do avoid the temptation to try it on. Believe you me, we've all done it. So leave it, I would say, for a couple of hours before you actually try it on, because what you're going to do by trying it on is you're just going to stretch the elastic and potentially that knot will come undone. So let's just pop that, let's pop it on the top of the bigger one so that you could just see what I've done. Actually, let's just hold it, that's much easier, isn't it? So I love the fact that with the stretch bracelets, if I was making one in the white howlite, I would probably make them stackable, so that I would, you know, have them so that you've perhaps got a plain one by the side of it and stack them that way. So they're really super easy, but you wouldn't believe sometimes people that do the most complex beading can struggle with a stretch bracelet, and it's just really a case of, you know, patience. Let's just show you some of the others. So that is all from that gemstone bead box. Got a lovely little leaf charm, so you've got lots of gems in there. I do love that little 4-leaf clover. That's tiger's eye, black onyx. This again is all out of that bead box. Clear quartz, rose quartz, and those little daisies. What's the last one we've got? And howlite, another one of my favourites. I love turquoise howlite. So when that's actually settled down and you're happy that that's set, I would actually use your scissors, but my scissors aren't at hand. So cut it down so that cut it down as close as you can, and there you go. So I can't think that there's really much else to cover in that, so let's just have a quick look at your questions. But let me know whether or not you'd quite like to see me doing some demonstrations on attaching a multi-strand bracelet, using the bead board for multi-strand, doing floating necklaces and multi-strand floating necklaces as well. So let's have a quick look. I'm just going to open up your comments. Now that's a good shout. So Kim uses both both crimped styles. Jackie said she uses split rings on the end of bracelets. That's a really good shout. Hadn't thought of the split rings. Jane's got both crimp types but prefers the round. They're much neater and she covers them. Lots of you not seen these bored. Perhaps if you've got one, it'll inspire you to get it out. If it has inspired you, or to do any of these makes, please photograph them and put them on our other site, Beaders of Beads by Virtue, if you could. That would be fab. Dot's never seen the board before. Jackie has but never used them. Gemma loves the stretch bracelets. They're so classy, aren't they? I don't think they're to be underestimated as to how beautiful they are. So Emma uses Paul-on stretch fibre elastic. It's the flat one rather than the round, as I find it knots better and the knot stays and doesn't unravel. That's a great tip, Share. Thank you. Sorry, Opilon elastic. I'm going to look that up. Brilliant. Sue uses flat elastic as well, and I think that's what it's all about, is, you know, sharing with each other what works for you so that you can actually try it. Now, question for you: has anybody ever come across anything fine enough to do things like peyote with, that has a bit of stretch in it? I would love to know. I personally haven't found anything, but I would have thought there's something out there that's perhaps a bit stretchy that you can thread onto your needle. So if you've come across anything, please share that. That would be super. But I hope you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a quick one tonight, probably because I'd had a lot of the beads strung and prepped already. But isn't it good? I think it's always lovely to go back to sort of where we came from, so to speak, with doing all of our back to basics, and, you know, not undermining the fact that they produce some really beautiful pieces. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and please, I look forward to you sharing any of your makes in our beaders group. Let me just pop the expand comments. Let me just share the link. Beaders of Beads. Right. Not sure why it's not letting me share. Beaders. There we go. Beaders of Beads by Virtue. Right, I will bid you all good night. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye.